Welcome to International Roundups. We come to you live from Belém in Brazil, the epicenter of COP30. And here, various discussions have started taking place, and key among those are matters to do with financing. But even as we talk about financing, just how exactly are we approaching this? Take a look.
For a very long time, Africa has suffered the impacts of climate change, but most importantly, Africa has suffered from the corporations, oil corporations, that are bringing projects in the community in the name of development. But these projects, at the end of the day, leave communities in the dark, literally, in terms of lack of energy access, because the energy access is limited to those who can afford it. It is very expensive. So our position at COP from a faith perspective is that there needs to be moral dignity on the table while conversations around just transition is being made. When you're talking about mitigation, we need to talk about mitigation, having the face of people at the community at the center of these conversations. For a very long time, ever since COP started, there has been reluctance to use the language around phasing out fossil fuel. But we have African countries that have very progressive energy transition plans, which are not considering oil as the main source of energy in their communities. But the irony is they still allow fossil fuel projects to continue in their communities.
We can't talk about just energy transition in the global context when we have close to 600 million people in Africa without access to clean energy, and also talking about so many people in the continent without access to energy. We can't. The Just Transition Work Program will not make any sense if energy access is not coming or is not put as an integral component of the Just Transition Work Program.
Renewable energy is the cheaper choice. So what we see is that there's a huge development, still there's a huge interest. Everybody's looking at national security, maintaining electricity in their grid. But they all want it cheap and also want it stable. And as I said, flexibility gives higher stability. Renewable energy is cheaper, and face it, the country with the cheapest electricity have the cheapest production. So yeah, that's what we see in all our corporations.
Our business is removing carbon at scale. These projects remove carbon, and we sell credits to companies like Google and Microsoft. In fact, we announced the deal with Google last week, which is our second deal with Google, making Mombac the largest supplier of carbon removal credits to Google, and the only reforestation company that Google has ever purchased credits from.
If you use wood, if you replace concrete with wood, you're using much less energy. And energy is the primary place where you're getting all these emissions. So that's fundamental. That's the original reason why this has always been promoted. So it's been long promoted to use timber instead of concrete. But one of the questions people had, well, if you're using trees and there's only so many trees, aren't we going to use them all up? And that's a kind of naive version of trees, because that kind of implies that there's a fixed stock and that's it. You cut one down, that's one less there is. But in fact, trees constantly are falling down and being replaced. So it's a natural part of forest that there's going to be some flow of wood, even if mankind wasn't around cutting things down.
From financing, there is the aspect of everyone being involved in these conversations. But what exactly do we mean? Civil society groups have been given an opportunity to be part and parcel of these conversations right here in Belém COP30.
There are two important reasons, or three important reasons. Firstly, there is the rights question. I think it's our rights to be able to follow, and therefore also to be able to attend. Secondly, I believe that parties can learn from civil society and from local communities. I think actually the decisions here become better if negotiators also listen to the advice from the civil society. And thirdly, there is also a question about accountability. Someone needs to look over the shoulder of the parties. If civil society is not present, it's more difficult to actually see what's happening, and then it's more difficult to follow up when we go home.
Essa caminhada global dos povos.
This World March of Indigenous Peoples from all over the world, here in Belém do Pará at COP30. A peaceful demonstration in defense of our environment, in defense of our planet. This is a call to the leaders of COP who are meeting there these days to say that it is necessary to guarantee indigenous territories. It is necessary to guarantee the defense of our Mother Nature. But this struggle is not only ours. We, the people, dedicate our lives to protecting the environment. We ask society, we ask the world, we ask at a global level that it be truly guaranteed that indigenous lands are effectively protected for indigenous peoples.
As terras do Brasil ainda estão na mão de ocupantes, de invasores, de grileiros.
This is the first time in the history of COP that we have the largest number of indigenous people. Therefore, we need to be here occupying the spaces to show that we are the true guardians of the forest, because there is no dialogue without the presence of indigenous peoples. There is no forest. If there is no forest, we, the original peoples, are its guardians. That is why we must show that we need life to continue protecting our forests and saving lives.
At COP30 in Belém, there is an agreement that those with private airlines, those flying business, will be tasked as one of the ways to fund climate financing. But is that the way to go? Different people with different opinions. Take a look.
I think it's really a good thing if we can tax polluters. We always need to make sure that polluters should pay. And if you are flying business class or first class or even in a private jet, you are polluting a lot. Ordinary flights, they are also polluting, but it's even more per person when you fly in this premium flyer. And that's why it's really good when countries add a levy on them. And I hope some countries have already done it, and I hope that more countries will follow. This will ensure that we can get more money.
For me, I really don't believe that is a climate change model, a financing model, because people will continue to fly. New planes are being manufactured every other day. People need to move around the world. So for me, I think it's the fossil fuels industries and players continue to hide in the cocoon of, they want to promote climate change, but at the same time, they are promoting their businesses. They will continue to rake in profits and continue to pollute and continue to, leave those who are suffering continue to suffer. Because tell me, if they tax those people, how sure are you the money is going to be remitted to the communities in the front line who are going to need them? Who is going to hold them into account of the resources they have been able to generate in terms of revenue to make sure that actually that revenue is then put back to the communities that need them? So I think it's a gap that those polluters, it's the game they play every other COP, trying to hide in that so that they are seen as the ones who are advancing the change and not really the polluters as they are.
Right here at COP30, different organizations have been given an opportunity to have their say. And among those are religious institutions who have a lot to say. Case in example is the fact that US President Donald Trump has been called out. Why exactly? Here is the reason.
I think the first thing we have to start with is recognizing the reality that around the world, more and more people are suffering the impacts of climate change. They're feeling the heat, they're experiencing droughts, floods, fires. That's across Africa, it's across Europe, it's across Asia, it's across North and South America. So that's the starting point, is that this crisis is real and people are feeling it and experiencing its harms directly now. The second thing we need to realize is that amidst all of the complexities that are part of a crisis like this, a global crisis, there are two key priorities that we cannot forget. One is the need to phase out fossil fuels, and number two is the need for more money to flow from the wealthy countries which are responsible for the crisis to enable and empower the rest of the world to adapt and to grow economically so that there can be a global shared green prosperity. This is possible, but the issues that are preventing it from happening are the same that have always plagued the human family: greed, indifference, callous disregard for the well-being of our neighbors. Those are the big issues that are here at COP. President Trump needs to get on his knees in front of Almighty God and beg for forgiveness for the harm that he's inflicted on the world with the climate crisis. It's morally inexcusable, it's callous, it's intentionally stupid, and it is wrong. And we want, I'm from the US, I want our sisters and brothers around the world to know that he does not speak for all people in the United States, that there are many of us who work for climate justice, and that we will not be silent. And we count on you to voice your criticisms of what the United States government is doing loudly and clearly, because we need to come at this as a global family, and together we can create a better future.
This is not coincidence. Trump is not coming because he does not want peace for the world. He does not want the big corporations and developed governments to lose money by taking care of the seas. They prefer to be left without a sea and destroy the earth. They are against humanity.
We've had a lot of discussions on how exactly financing should be done, especially to the global south. But here at COP30, there is the aspect that even as we talk about financing, the people have to be part and parcel of these conversations, putting the face to the conversations. Take a look.
We talk about Africa, we don't look at the opportunities that are there in Africa. We don't look at the knowledge that is there, indigenous knowledge that is there. We don't look at talent. And we keep asking people to help us. But again, even the resourcing that we have, we don't put it to good use, So when people are raising resources to be able to respond to climate change, to be able to come in and support, whether it's through water tracking or food and non-food items, and organizations like Action Aid then have come in to periodically do this kind of work, to be able to work with communities that are facing disaster and be able to help them respond, recover, and build resilience. We see government then lacking, and we see that totally missing. And the African Union then comes in the begging bowl, so much so that we don't take part at the heart of the conversation, knowing that the potential that we have is not utilized, the core in which it is supposed to be there. I think there's much more that needs to be done. I think there's potential. I think we need to be able to really put our knowledge out there and really take our space. As it is right now, we are not pushing it hard enough.
From my point of view, it means working much closely with those that are directly impacted by the consequences of climate change. And in relation to the Amazon, it is about the local peoples and local communities, the indigenous peoples that protect these lands for us.
Tienen que entender que no es la plata, no es la tarjeta, es la vida.
And may every president touch their heart, because they came to govern, to administer, not to own, to defeat, to destroy, or to divide the people. Let there be change. Let us change history.
Y la plata no te va a hacer vivir.
You see, conversations here in COP covers a different array of situations, but key and important to the continent and pretty much just Kenya is the fact that Lake Victoria needs to be saved. How exactly are we doing that? EAC had a pavilion, and we spoke to the Deputy Executive Director, and here is what he had to say.
Of course, resources are never available for everybody, and therefore EAC is facing a lot of deficit in climate financing from our partner state, given that the partner state have different various priorities, competing priorities, be it infrastructure, be it security, be it social service, but also the climate financing. Our partner state take it as a national security threat, and it is being given a very serious attention from our partner state. We are also seeking support from financing institutions that are supporting the climate financing. Currently, we do not have an initiative that is trying maybe to resettle the population around the lake. However, the initiative we have as a community is to create awareness to the population that is settling around the lake, and also educate them on how they should protect the lake, how they should protect the maritime, and how best they can coexist with the lake. This community has been coexisting with the lake for a very long time. The only thing we need to do now is equipping them with the current knowledge that is fighting the climate change and climate challenges so that they are able to take care of the lake and take the responsibility. We are taking as a community what we call bottom-up approach, meaning that we have to involve the people that are actually settling around the lake and who are the immediate beneficiaries of the lake.
At COP30, a big player in the continent Africa, South Africa, saw its cabinet minister for environment withdrawn and fired by President Cyril Ramaphosa. But even while at that, what effect did this have to the South African delegation, where one says usually speaks on behalf of the continent? Has that affected the Africa group of negotiators in sending their views and negotiating at this COP? Take a look.
You want us to implement all these changes, but what are you prepared to offer us in return? Because we will be impacted. We must cut down on coal-powered stations and to adopt alternative technologies is going to cost money. And every technology that you acquire costs lots of money. So what are you going to do to help us? I don't think Africa is being stubborn, but about transitioning. It's just that we can't transition and land our economies and our people into a worse state because of the transition. That's an unjust transition.
All right, COP30, a lot of discussions here. Global leaders have come here. We continue to have discussions on how exactly the world will be a better place. And with this, there is the aspect of how businesses will be affected, and also indigenous communities being involved in this entire conversation. Take a look at how this went.
The first thing we need is fair contracts, inclusive connection with the people on the ground. We need to eliminate a lot of the intermediaries that are the ones that actually get the whole portion of the capital, and then it doesn't go to the ground, to the ones that are protecting the forest, and actually change the way that we behave as well in our systems, like what we are eating, what we are dressing, how we are consuming, and understand that we can go and we can walk together in this path. And actually corporations have a big play here. What I have seen here at COP, it's a change of values. We need to understand what we value more, if it's like having an interaction and human care and more close to nature, or it's more based on material and money. And this is already corporations are full of. And they need to take care more on the people that are on the ground, giving the resources that they are actually using to make their money.
COP30 has discussed a lot of things, including just how financing will get here. But key and important to that is the fact that supply chain will also be affected, and important to have these conversations. Take a look.
So, in our understanding, in order to boost and strengthen those value chains, we need to work with philanthropy and with investors. Why? Because there are preconditions that we need to make them working before the value chains are ready to be in the market. And one of them are land rights, governance, capacity building, logistics. These are all philanthropic money that can give support to actually then make those value chains be ready for market. And then you need the trust and actually the long-term investments that will actually be able or make those value chains to thrive. Because also there is this problem on investments. You want the money fast and back, but we are dealing with a forest that has time. The trees cannot be so fast to produce what they do, and we cannot monoculturize everything. Another point is that we need to understand the time of the forest, the time of the people, and actually the biodiversity of that. We won't have thousands of kilos of one specific thing. We will have less than this, but a lot of different things. How we can work with this. This is social biodiversity. This is the diversity that we need. that we need to learn how to live with.
You see, 3 years ago, at COPs across the world, one thing had been banned, and these are demonstrations. But this has been different right here at COP30 because different groups, different civil society organizations have been allowed to demonstrate and become part and parcel of the conversations. We saw indigenous groups go to the streets to demand that they be part of the conversations, and not just that. Very many other groups have been demonstrating at the epicenter right here in Blue Zone at COP30.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now! What do we want?
Climate justice!
The struggle at COP is, first, a struggle for better agreements, and second, for climate justice, ensuring that the countries that pollute and continue to pollute pay the price for global warming, and that they help the countries that have preserved their forests to continue having their conditions to conserve their territories.
I believe that the countries of the global north must face the consequences of their pollution. I also believe that the global south needs financing because it is we who, through the Amazon and other territories, actually build solution to the climate crisis. We are the ones who contribute the most. We produce more oxygen, more forest, more environmental benefits, and we truly believe that the global north must be held responsible for these consequences, including fulfilling its own commitments, which it is not doing.
This week, everything has come from Belém in COP30, Brazil. And all these are conversations around climate change and what effects they had to you and me, and how all these conversations should make it just a little bit better for you. In partnership with Biori, I'm Dennis Aceto from Belém in Brazil.